everyone. Thank you for coming today. I was so excited when I was asked to sit on stage with you, Enric. And I know that my grandfather was a huge inspiration for you growing up. We've talked about it so many times. And I was thinking about this one time that he was asked by journalists what made it possible for him to do all that he did in his life. And he said, in response to that question, it's that I live in my lucky moment in time. And it's true. You know, if he'd been born 20 years earlier, 20 years later, none of the innovations would have been possible. Television wouldn't have existed. And it was that moment where he was able to reach his potential to make his dreams come true, but also to inspire an entire generation around the world for our oceans. And like you, I've met people around the world who were inspired as children by my grandfather. And I feel like, having watched him as a child with his calls to action that largely fell on deaf ears, that this may be our lucky moment in time. The fact that we are all gathered here today having these conversations, celebrating these people, these solutions, these innovations, makes me believe that we have finally reached our lucky moment in time where we will be able to solve these problems. And I know you started in academia, and you gave it up, and you chose a different path. Can you tell me why?
Well, first of all, thank you for doing this with me today. I lost my moment in time because when I was a kid, I wanted to be a diver in Jacques Cousteau's boat, in the Calypso. But I was born too late for that. But thanks to the inspiration, I became a marine biologist. I was a professor at Scripps Institution of Oceanography in California. And my work was to study the impacts of humans in the ocean, the impacts of fishing, global warming, and one day, and publish it in scientific journals. And one day I realized that all I was doing was writing the obituary of the ocean. I felt like the doctor who's telling you how you're going to die with excruciating detail, but not offering a cure. So that day I decided to quit, and I went to the National Geographic Society and proposed a partnership to help protect vital places in the ocean, combining their global reach and communications abilities with my research background. And that was in 2008 when I moved to Washington, D.C. and started Pristine Seas.
That was when we met. And you've done so much since then. And when you were imagining what Pristine Seas could be and what it could accomplish, what were the challenges that you were setting out to solve?
Well, we cannot overstate how important marine life is for our survival, right? Ocean life gives us more than half of the oxygen we breathe, food, livelihood for hundreds of millions of people. It captures much of the carbon pollution that we throw in the atmosphere. Until now, it helped to provide a stable climate. But we have been killing marine life like there is no tomorrow, taking fish out of the ocean faster than they can reproduce, making the ocean warmer and more acidic. So I thought, what's the solution? And we have two solutions here. One, we need to reduce carbon emissions, and the other one is we need to protect the nature that is our life support system. And what we need to not only protect what's left, but we need to restore, as we were talking about before. And we have learned that the best way to restore the ocean is let the ocean do it itself. And you have seen this, I have seen this, when we set aside areas, protected areas without fishing, without drilling, without mining, marine life comes back spectacularly. The abundance of fish increases on average 6 times inside these protected areas. So the ocean has this incredible ability to rebound, to bounce back, and we cannot replicate that. But there is more, because people say, well, we cannot protect more of the ocean because we have to feed more people, we have to fish more. Well, we reached peak fish 25 years ago. 90% of the large fish in the ocean, tuna, sharks, cod, groupers, are gone. We ate them. And in these protected areas, the fish grow much larger, they have longer lives, they reproduce more, they produce many more babies, and there is this spillover of fish from these reserves to the nearby waters. So fishermen are actually doing better fishing around these protected areas. So we have a double win. Marine life comes back, and we have food security and livelihoods for people. So we decided to focus on that, on working with communities and governments to protect as many important places in the ocean as possible.
Well, and you've had an extraordinary run. Every time I hear about you, Enric, you're either publishing a paper, you're going off on expedition, or you're making a new film. I mean, the past years have been extraordinarily productive for you and for Pristine Seas. What are some of the accomplishments that you're most proud of?
Well, the most proud is that we have been privileged to support communities, indigenous peoples, and governments to implement their vision for conservation. Right? We have worked in countries like Chile, for example, where they created 4 large marine parks covering a quarter of their waters, fully protected from fishing. So we have been supporting these countries, these communities, with our research, economic analysis, communications, help with the policy work. But that's the biggest privilege, to have been able to run alongside these people who knew that the ocean is important, and without a healthy ocean, there is no healthy communities. And since I moved to DC, we've been involved in the creation of 26 large marine reserves around the world, from the Arctic to Antarctica and in tropical seas. And the combined area is over half the size of the United States, that is fully protected from fishing and other damaging activities. So that's very fulfilling. Yeah.
That's something to be proud of. So how do you go, where do you go from here? How do you improve on that record?
We have only 8% of the ocean protected today. And our Earthshot is, as Patty said, 30 by 30. 30% of the ocean, at least, 30% of the ocean protected by 2030. And we know that if we protect the right 30%, not only we will prevent the extinction of many marine species, but also we will produce more fish. There's going to be, these protected areas are going to produce a spillover that will exceed the foregone catch. So we're going to have more fish to eat, food security, livelihoods for people. And we know that for every dollar that we invest in a protected area, in a marine reserve, that produces $10 in economic output and creates more jobs. So it's a triple win for marine life, for food security, and for climate, and of course, for the economy. So that's the goal, the mission, to, in the next 8 years, and that's where the Earthshot is really, is pretty crazy. In the next 8 years, we need to quadruple all the ocean protection that has ever happened in human history. Are
you optimistic that can be done?
I am optimistic. There is no choice. And I channel Christiana Figueres. I wake up in the morning and I think, okay, what's the door that is open today? I am optimistic because there are countries that have already protected 30% or more, like the UK, Seychelles, Palau, Niue, Chile, and others. And also because it is feasible, it's practical economically. The estimate is that it will take about $15 billion per year to protect 30% of the ocean, to cover the cost of managing this network of protected areas. $15 billion may seem like a lot, but that's less than the money that governments use to pay subsidies to the fishing industries to continue overfishing. And just to put it on an easier way to compare, we spend 5 times more on ice cream than what it would take to save our ocean life support system. So the money is there, we just need to use it for the right purposes, and the example of these living countries shows that it's possible.
How many countries are committing to this?
Now more than 100 countries support 30 by 30, and this year there is the most important summit that you have never heard of. It's happening this December in Montreal. Everybody has heard about the COP, the climate COPs, but we have the the biodiversity COP, the nature COP. It's the conference of the parties of the Convention on Biodiversity, all the countries of the world getting together this December to agree on how much space we're going to give to nature. And this is going to be the nature equivalent of the Paris Climate Agreement. It is the most important meeting together with the Paris Climate Agreement to decide the future of humanity. And there are already over 100 nations that support this goal of 30 by 30. So we hope that by December, the rest of the world will agree.
Well, I know everyone here joins me in wishing you luck with that goal. And thank you, Enric, for everything that you've done for the oceans. Your contribution has been immense and immeasurable. and I wish you all the best.
Thank you for the inspiration you've provided to me. Thank you so much.